We just heard about Drew's story about getting a rental property, how it cash flows, VA loan, sub 3%, all of that great stuff. Drew, thank you for coming on the channel. I understand you might have a couple of questions, so why not do a second video? What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. So I think one of the biggest things that I've thought about, like, what would I ask you if I kind of ran into you in person? Well, here we are, kind of in the digital verse of a person. But I would say, when you started your journey, like, so essentially when you were just starting out and you were working your sales, your salary and stuff like that, and you started changing the from the mold of which everybody kind of knew, where I feel like everybody's on this path of W-2, you work, you grind it out, you get a retirement, and then you die. And then when you started going away from that, how did you deal with, I'd say, family members, giving you, were you ever given like a hard time for it? When you ever called like, oh, you're being cheap, or, what are you doing? And you're doing something abnormal.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So it's really interesting. My family, kind of my background for folks who don't know it was very much so when I grew up, just to kind of people don't know my backstory, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, my dad worked. That was just kind of the deal. And they both served in the military. It's where they met. So, when I think back to, my father, it was very much, I remember him telling me one time, Michael, I'm going to die at work. I'm like, and again, I think I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. And for whatever reason, I was impressed by that statement, which is just wild to think about, right? I'm going to die at work. Now, looking back on that, what did that mean? That meant that he spent all the money, or the family spent all the money we made. We didn't have savings, at least that I knew of. We didn't have a plan. It was very much work, earn, spend. One of the most vivid stories I have from my youth was, for whatever reason, my parents got a tax refund one year. And I think it was like $1,100 or $1,300. But for whatever reason, we felt rich for a moment. And that weekend, my mom went out and spent the money on family stuff. My dad spent the money on computer crap, which meant it got really loud because they both spent the money. And oh, by the way, they spent the money before they got it, right? They knew they got a refund, but the refund hadn't shown up yet, but the money was spent. So I share all of that because that was my experience. And that's how I lived the first decade of my adult life, was bust your ass during the day, spend every penny. And 30 years old, I lose all that money in the stock market. I feel like a total failure. I thought I had it figured out. I go from being frankly cocky to depressed, and Rich Dad Poor Dad flips a light switch on. Other than Olivia, I don't talk about buying Norris Drive with anybody. So I probably don't talk to any of my family members or my circle for the first 4 or 5 years until we have 7 or 8, because I just didn't, it was none of their business, frankly. Nobody in my cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, they all just worked. No college education other than myself and then my sister, my younger sister. No college graduates. And so frankly, I didn't talk about it with them. I mean, that's the short answer, because I didn't want the nonsense. I didn't want you're risky. I didn't think they'd understand. I wasn't interested in their opinion, frankly. I wanted a better life for my family than what I saw in theirs. So Drew, the real answer is, dude, I didn't talk to him. I just didn't talk. Certainly didn't talk to him about this stuff on purpose. So that was the big deal.
Yeah, because I felt like, when I first started in the beginning, it was kind of like, oh, well, you really talk about this a lot. That's all you talk about. And then you talk to like say older relatives, and they give you the same old, well, money isn't everything, and more to life, and what about your family? And it's like, and the thing is, like, you're right, money isn't everything, but money does allow me to get where I want to get to. And it's like, what's the difference between spending 60 hours in a week at work and then spending a little bit more time right now, less time to build something to where I can spend more time with my family later. And it's like, I want to go, I want to go to the ballet recitals. I want to go to the baseball games. I want to go to the sporting events for my family, my kids. I want to be there for everything, but I can't if I have to work 40 to 60 hours a week to pay the light bill and to pay the overhead. And it's like, I'm trying to create something where I can be a part of their lives later on and not just have to grind it out consistently until I'm 70. And when at that point, life is gone. And to me, it's like it's worth the delayed
Yeah,
gratification, and you can do other stuff that's free. You don't have to go pay for a Disneyland trip,
for sure.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, they're
Yeah.
once and
Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, I say some things on purpose to shock people, because I think some people need to be woken up from their stupor. So what I would tell most people, and it's kind of to this question, is think about your 5 friends today that you spend the most time with. For most of you, I'm going to say your friends suck.
yeah,
They're not they're the friends because of lots of reasons. You have shared history, blah 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 blah, but that doesn't mean they're helping you move forward, right?
mm,
And I would challenge most people to get 3 or 4 friends that are pushing them to be better at something, right? I happen to enjoy real estate investing, and that's where my friends are. But if your focus is being an entrepreneur, or classic cars, or whatever, stocks, fire movement, I don't care what it is. The friends that you have today suck. Go figure out your things and then get new friends. I'm not telling you to remove those 5 friends that you have forever. Just don't make them the top 5. Dude, I mean, it's on my 7 rules of one rental at a time is, basically monitor your network, because somebody in your network is pulling you down. Get
yeah.
get a new person.
Yeah, because I realized too, it's like if you don't find people of like mind and mentality, man, and
Yeah.
that part of that motivation to when you're not finding that property within a year is, you start doing some crazy stuff. You start looking at a property like, oh, I can make this work if I do
Yeah.
this. If
Beat
I
up the
don't include,
spreadsheet.
it's a great cash flow if I don't include maintenance. And it's like, that's crazy talk because maintenance is always going to be there. So you have to still include that. And your friends, in my opinion, once I started going to like real estate meetup groups, and they really like, hey, cash flow, no, include the maintenance. Don't get crazy on this.
Yeah.
Like, stay the course, stay the path, and you need that someone in your corner, because and it's hard to get support from other areas that are traditionally a lot more supportive, and so you have to kind of find those people with you,
Yeah.
that
What
are minded.
what I would tell someone, kind of on the final topic of this first question, is if you're going out with friends or family and you feel exhausted when that conversation or meeting is over because you were deflecting or defining or defending your decisions to invest or learn, that's a person to cut out. You should never feel exhausted talking to a friend or family. And there were some people in the early years that I was exhausted talking to them. So I had to reduce my time, and when we had to talk, I was just platitudes and just, we're not going there. I don't want to feel exhausted when I'm done talking to you.
It's kind of like the phrase, like, you don't talk politics or something like that. You just one of those blackened areas you just kind of just
Yes,
stay away from.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I shouldn't feel exhausted talking to a family member. And if I
No,
do, then
no,
we're not talking about money. That's for sure. Because a lot of people don't talk about money. I
yeah,
have several family members that just think you can, smile and, the world will take care of you. That's shit. That ain't how it works. At least not in my book.
no, absolutely. It's like money's very taboo topic, and it shouldn't be.
No, I
Yeah,
agree.
it shouldn't be. And I guess my next question for you was, where do you go when, you're kind of looking at that next investment, and kind of like my situation where I'm like here in Boston, I can't go house hack again. The market's everywhere. And so I know you still have your buy box, you're still looking at your market. Um, you know, I've come to realize I probably need to start looking at a team or partnering with other people. And what made you go into that realm or were you always a part of that realm, or were you like individual and then went into that realm? And what made you
Yeah.
go there?
Yeah. So so the first 5 years of my investing career, so this would have been like '01 to '06, I was very much in my spreadsheet on my computer. I wasn't purposefully networking. I wasn't purposefully telling people what I was looking for. And that's a clear mistake. Real estate investing is without question a people business. The more people that know your buy box and what you're looking for, your better chances. So if 10 people know, that's good. If 100 people know, that's better. If 1,000 people know, that's wonderful. So you've got more resources. You have to do that. Um, whether it's real estate meetups, online communities, all of those things. Everybody should know what Drew is looking for and be specific, right? I hate it. Like if you ever want to push my buttons, come to me and tell me, hey, Michael, I know you know Fresno. Uh, just I'm ready to go. Let me know when you find a good deal that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
It just drives me nuts. I'm like, really? You don't think I could do every good or great deal that I find? Okay. I mean, that's insulting to me. Do your
Well, it's kind of
do
like asking for the reward without doing the work.
Yeah. It's like,
And you're
okay.
like, I'm like, whoa. So I should just, because I put the effort in, I put the time in, I've done the work. I should just give you what you consider my scraps. I'm not good enough to buy this unit, or,
Yeah.
but
It's crazy. But I hear it all the time. It's kind of wild. Um, yeah. So after year 5, the first thing I remember doing was going to a real estate meetup in the Bay Area with Bruce Norris as the featured speaker, and he saved our business.
yeah,
He told me about the affordability index. I talk about it in my book, obviously. And
yeah,
we do some 1031 exchanges. We go from 8 to 80 units before the crash, which was awesome.
yeah,
And then the market rolls over. I start writing on bigger pockets. I start getting known, and I start raising private capital. I never asked for it; it just
yeah,
came to me, and that was game changing. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's just a slow evolution. I did
yeah.
document our story, which was kind of unique. That's how we raised private money. Is I had a site. It doesn't exist anymore, called Wealth Building Pro, where I would
Oh,
write about all our houses. I'd call it the gumball house and the this house and the that house. And I had buddies at work say, "Hey, I got some money. Let me give it to you or lend it to you," right? Because they were the bank, right? So they got paid 10 or 12% interest. It was awesome. Yeah, we borrowed millions of dollars at 10%. Um, I've never done a true JV or anything like that. I don't have to. Um, but yeah, I've paid referral fees. I've paid out. I remember one wholesaler made 50 grand on a deal they found for me. So I'm not opposed to paying others for finder's fees or wholesale fees. Yeah, you just got to tell everybody, Drew, what you're looking for.
okay. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
The one thing I would, again, I don't know if you've done this already. Um, but back to your story of buying that duplex in Texas. Do you
Mhm.
know if that lady sold all of her units, or does she maybe have some left?
No, she sold all of her.
Okay.
There was
All right.
some medical stuff additional. That's why I wanted to go home to
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, she was, yeah.
Where I was going with that, this may help others. I've bought from older sellers several times, as you might imagine, over the last 22 years. And I remember two, it might be more, but I remember two specifically where we bought one property 1 year and then another year. And then near the end, we bought the rest of the portfolio. So next time you bump into someone like that, remember, they might be selling one today, but stay in touch, follow up. And the reason I bring this up is I remember his name's Vernon, and we bought two of his properties, traditional financing. And then it was like 4 years, might have been 5 years after the first deal. He called us. I'm not even sure how he got our number, probably from the agent. And he said, Michael, you bought, 123 Main Street from me 5 years ago. You told me you're an investor. I looked you up. Um, I want to sell you my rest of my portfolio and I want to carry it.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's have
Yeah.
that conversation, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
so again, when you find somebody who has a portfolio, for the rest of the folks watching, realize that's a relationship you should maintain, because you just never know that where that will go. So something
No,
to think
that's
about next time.
yeah. Definitely. And I know one of the creative things I've done, I've actually had I've talked to my I use a property manager for the duplex now in Texas, and I talked to my property manager. I was like, hey, if you do have rentals, because it is a big military community, if
Sure.
you have somebody that has a property and they have to move very quickly because of the military and they're trying to sell it, or they're having issues with it, or you know, maybe give
Perfect.
me a call or send me an email. And so there have been a couple properties that she has sent over. They don't cash flow, so I couldn't make the deal work. But it's kind of like that insider,
Yeah.
get it before it goes on the market type deal.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to tell you is it's true it might be tough for you to buy or house hack in Boston, but it sounds like you have a network in Texas. I would keep leveraging that because you just never know.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Texas is where the system's already kind of built over there. And like I said, we take all the rental income. We don't touch any of the investment income. We live solely on military salary, and then we keep contingency funds for
s-
repairs and
smart.
a lot of the Dion method of having that
Yeah.
separate account
Oh
sitting
yeah.
there. It's right for it, not out of pocket. Don't want to do that again.
Yeah. Don't want to do that again. Have that separate little kitty for those surprises. That's
Exactly.
very, very cool. All right. Very cool.
Yep. That's really
That was
all
it.
I got for right
All
now.
right. Well,
Yep.
do me a favor. Give a shout out to your wife. I don't know that I've heard her first name.
Yeah, Miranda. My wife's Miranda. So
Miranda.
love you so much and thank you for all the support.
There you go. Well, Andrew, or Drew, sorry, Drew, I do have one last question. We hit on it the first episode. I thought I would end on this one. A lot of people, their spouse isn't on board day one, which was Miranda's case, right? She was pregnant. She was like, hey, it's not a good time. Why don't you give
Yeah,
some advice to folks to just how to have that open line of dialogue or communication? Because it's vital. You can't do it
it
without
is.
them.
Yeah, I think what really brought her around was when I started getting the knowledge, and I didn't, in my opinion, I didn't keep it to myself. You can't operate with one side pushing and the other side not, or not knowing. You can't drive a car on one side, no, other drivers trying to go a different way. So you have to, whenever I would learn something, I would just bring it up to her. I was like, hey, babe, look at this, like, did you know that could possibly write off all your rental income, look at the growth. And it was kind of just a continuous probably several years of just continuously bringing it up, continuously talking about it. I feel like a lot of couples don't talk about finances enough.
Yeah, it's
And
weird, right? Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, man, I would honestly say me and my wife, we talk about finances every day. Every day we talk about it. And it's not because it's not like a bad conversation, like, oh, we can't pay the light bill, we can't pay that. No, and sometimes, or a lot of times, it's just, where do you think we should go from here? And we've already talked about it a lot of times, but it's keeping everybody on the same path, keeping everybody on the same page. This is where we're wanting to go. It's not a surprise when I tell her, hey, I want to buy another property. She knows I want to buy another property. And when you finally get that, yeah, let's go get another property. That's that uplifting, that like, all right, yeah, I got support. I'm not gonna we're not gonna fight about this. When I finally find the next one, I'll have to convince her because she's already a part of it. And just having the conversation continuously, because, again, I was very open with finances, but she was raised to be very not as open with finances. So bringing us both on the same page, we've known each other a long time. And, of course, the girl you date is not the girl you marry, and really just everything in marriage is a compromise. And sometimes too, you have to show your spouse, or, in my case, my wife, that yes, this could be risky. Yes, there are things that we have to repair, but what else? What other plan do we have to retire? Do I work till I'm 70? Do you have another plan where do you have a plan that you have where I don't have to work till I'm 70?
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
What is
Are
your
you
plan?
working on something on the side?
Yeah, if you don't like my idea, what is your idea? And when there isn't an idea, it really does bring to light, like, okay, if you don't have an idea, I have an idea. Let's look at my idea, and then and you gotta be open to that. If they do come up with an idea,
Yeah.
you
You got
gotta
to
address it.
listen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You gotta listen. You gotta compromise. So, and part of that is, giving them peace of mind that, hey, I'm doing the research. And she says that too, is like when you started reading book after book and you started just constantly watching videos and driving around the neighborhood, just looking at properties. We used to go out on Saturdays, just drive around, during that year mark of that first one, like this would be a great neighborhood to buy in, and trying to just, bring it all together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Drew, you have a growing YouTube channel. What is it so people can check it out?
It's the Flick channel, so it's an acronym FLIK. Financial literacy is key channel, and Instagram at Flick channel. Same thing.
Thank you, Drew. I appreciate you, man. Take care. Good luck.
Thank you so much.